So, welcome. I'm going to share my screen with you because I'm going to do this slightly differently than I normally do. The last couple of these that we've had have just been me in discussion with somebody else. And then we've had the first one, for those of you who were with me then, that was me talking alone. But this one, I've decided to do it as kind of a little slideshow, just so that you've got something to look at, essentially, rather than just looking at my face while we talk. So yeah, it's a slightly, I kind of ummed and ahed about this one, about whether to do this one at all, because it's not a subject that I wasn't sure whether people would be interested, essentially, in business skills. It's not, because we're in a creative field, a lot of the time people kind of turn their nose up at that a little, or just don't think it's for them, or whatever that may be. And the language of saying meet your inner entrepreneur, you know, I'm sure most of us know what an entrepreneur is, but you know, the dictionary definition of that is someone who starts their own business, essentially. And obviously it can go further than that. You know, it can be, often there's a lot of financial risk involved, or people think of kind of tech entrepreneurs or that kind of thing, people with a product and so on. So it's often not how we really think of ourselves as makeup artists. But I think of us that way because we have a lot of qualities in common with what an entrepreneur is. That would be someone who doesn't want to have a boss, very ambitious, easily bored in the regular kind of 9 to 5. We strive for freedom from that. We're creative. We're willing to take risk. So we have a lot of that kind of vibe about us as makeup artists. And I kind of came to this idea because basically I think we're about 50-50 here in terms of who's attending. We've got some people who are on my course, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and then about 50% of you who have just come through hearing about the webinar elsewhere. But yes, at the start of lockdown, I started running a course that I'd been teaching at LCF online, and there's a lot attached to that. It's not just, you know, throwing out a few videos. There's a lot of planning, there's certain goals attached to it, promotion, so on. And I also have another little side business that was actually due to start this summer, but unfortunately has been delayed because of COVID. But when I talk about those ideas, a lot of people will say to me like, oh, that's very entrepreneurial of you. And I always think, well, really, to me, it's just an extension of what I already do. You know, it's being a business person on your own, you know, coming up with ideas, being creative, finding solutions to those ideas, doing your research, planning, etc., etc. So I feel we all have that within us, and that's why I wanted to put this idea forwards. I think when we think of entrepreneurs, we kind of think of those like big hetero men. It's kind of that world kind of takes over the term a little bit, all of your kind of Elon Musks and Richard Branson and so on. But I think most of the business advice that I've come across is universal. And I think as makeup artists, we often believe that what we need is passion, that passion and talent will get us where we want to go. You absolutely need passion and talent, but sort of like in business, the success of an idea or a product is not just based on how good the idea or the product is. You also have to have a lot of strategy and marketing and other stuff going on behind the scenes in order for something to succeed. So in that sense, I feel that's how we are. You know, the fact that we may be a talented artist or we may be really hungry for this is not necessarily enough to get us where we want to go. So yeah, being a part of this industry, like any industry, is a little bit like playing a game. There's lots of rules and strategies that you can employ. And what we want to do is get good at playing that game. So that is why I've put this forward as an idea for us. So I've said there, your makeup career as a small business. Essentially, that's what we're going to be talking about. So I just want to do a quick intro. Let me move that over to who I am. Just for those of you who don't know who aren't on the course, this is me. I'm Lucy. Everyone, hi. I live in London. I'm represented by Frank Agency. I've got over 15 years in the industry. I work mostly in fashion, celebrity and commercial. Clients there, a few of them, Emily Sunday, Rita Ora, Haim, Vivienne Westwood, Nike, Elle, Grazia, etc., etc. I work internationally, which, well, I did before COVID. Hopefully that will be starting up again sometime soon. And yeah, as mentioned, I created the Business of Freelance Makeup Artistry course, which is now online. If you want to follow me or follow the course after this, this is where you can find me. That's just a few examples of my work in case you're thinking, who is this woman? And that is the website of the course as well that I'm talking about, thebusinessofmua.com. Oh, by the way, if you do decide that it's something you want, I'll give you guys a discount code as well later on, so just stick around for that. Okay, so what you're going to learn today. So you may have seen, a few of you may have seen me mention on, let me just see what people are chatting about. I always get distracted by this chat. Hi Lucy, we're going to receive a PDF from the course material. Do you mean from today? There is no PDF or anything attached to this. I tell you what though, if you're taking notes, there this is recorded, so I'm going to put this up online. Let me just triple check we're recording actually, because that is a very important part of this whole thing. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Let me pause that share. This is something that always freaks me out when I'm on my, yes, we are recording. Hallelujah. Okay, let's go back to that. So yeah, if you're wanting to take notes, but you'd rather just listen right now, this will be on YouTube later, so you can come back and take notes then. Okay, so the 10 commandments that we're going to talk about. Some of you may have seen me put these online. It's essentially, you know, I like to break things down into steps that make things a little bit more easy to digest. So it was kind of 10 of my favorite bits of advice that I have come across myself, or that I found whilst I was researching this, that I felt were most relevant to us as makeup artists, that you may not have heard or thought about or applied to your own career before. There is a bit of businessy talk through this. We all know that kind of business talk that you hear, like guys on the train barking into their mobile phones. I've tried to keep it as relevant to us as I can, but one part that I felt was very relevant to us and very kind of a good descriptor is what I've said at the bottom there: workable ideas to take you from survival mode to growth mode. Now, survival mode is often somewhere where people begin, certainly, and it's somewhere that a lot of artists spend a bit too much time, purely because they don't know how to get out of it. It's essentially, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, month to month, no medium long-term plan, no security, no savings. It's very stressful as a way to live. I lived in it for way too long. That's why I wrote the course, because I want people to move through that as quickly as possible. Yeah, and it can't be maintained long term. And as you know, as a business analogy, I kept coming up against this a lot, saying, you know, many businesses fail in the first year for a number of reasons, and that's because they're kind of trying to survive in survival mode. And so the aim is to get out of that and into what is called growth mode. There is also cruise mode, which a lot of people are in, which is that kind of everything's fine, you know, I make enough money, it's all good, no real stress, but you're not progressing, you're just kind of stuck there. So we want to move into growth mode, which is what it sounds like. You're going to be getting you're going to be a better quality of artist for starters. You'll earn more money, you'll get hired more by better clients, you'll be more respected, and then you can kind of build on that exponentially. So yeah, I think as makeup artists, we kind of focus on this holy trinity of like the kit, the portfolio, and our makeup skills. Like, how good are we at putting makeup on faces? And that's all we need to concentrate on. But this growth that I'm talking about is what happens behind the scenes that other people don't necessarily see. It's your strategy, your marketing, and all of that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about as well. So just to bear in mind that this kind of stuff, it takes time, it will happen slowly, but you will come out of this with things that you can start working on as soon as you leave the webinar, essentially. should give you like some serious direction and focus, as well as like actionable steps, which is what we like. So, okay, I'm going to kick straight into it. The first one of our 10 commandments. Let me click through. There we go. So the first one was to create bite-sized goals. Now, this is the real meat and potatoes of this. Like, I've started with a real belter because it's a little bit complex, but I've tried to break it down as best I can to make it as helpful to you as possible. It says that a goal without a plan is just a dream, which I know sounds airy-fairy, but read that again. It makes sense. You know, the amount of us who have these goals that we either think about or talk about. You know, if someone said to you, oh, where do you want to get to as a makeup artist? Oh, well, I'd love to, you know, be heading fashion week shows and, you know, doing front covers of Vogue. Okay, and how are you going to get there? You know, we have these goals, but without a plan, they are just that, essentially. So they can seem kind of insurmountable, and we don't know how to get there from where we are now. So we're going to figure that out. The way to do that is by breaking these goals down into small, specific, achievable tasks with a time frame. That's very important. Otherwise, again, like businesses, you know, without that, we just aimlessly push forwards and kind of don't really know where we're going, and, you know, kind of cross our fingers, hope for the best. So these goals can be short-term or long-term. I would say anywhere up to 10 years. Don't worry about that, because you can change them as you go. You don't have to stick to a goal 10 years down the line if things have changed. But what we want to do, or what you guys want to do, is to brainstorm, because these can cover many different sides of your career. So, a bit more business speak for you guys. Are you ready? Just in terms of how you're going to come up with these goals, you may have your obvious ones that you already know for yourself, but we want you to, you know, dig deep and really have a good think about this. So you have 4 types of goals that you could maybe think about for yourself. Service. So this is about client experience. Are your skills or your presentation or your kit maybe not where you'd like them to be? All of that, kind of the actual work side of things. Social. So this is the people side of things, obviously. So maybe like certain networking opportunities or new clients that you'd like to be available to you. That was my speaker. Profit. We all know what that is. So earnings, whether it's a monthly target that you want that you're not currently earning, or something you'd like to be able to save for that you can't at the moment, some sort of financial security that you don't already have. Or it might be growth, which would be like a bigger day rate or a higher quality of client or a busier diary. So you might want to, you know, write those titles out and have a think there and just let it flow. You know, you can always cross things out afterwards. And once you have your goals, you may be like me, where you love a spreadsheet, or you can do this in a notebook, whatever suits you, but certainly you're going to need to get these down somewhere. You're going to want something like this. Now, this is a smaller version. I just nicked this from somebody, but just to simplify it to begin with, this kind of process, it can work for anything. You could want to write a book or open a restaurant like this person. And it kind of allows you to see that this big goal is just a series of small steps. So what they've split it into is their think big, that's their goal. There's only one goal here. This is the thing, you might have 10, you know, in different aspects, and that's fine. Let me just enter people in the waiting room, sorry. And then he's called it, don't know why I think it's a he, but they've called it act small. But that's just essentially what they're breaking it down into, the kind of projects that they need to do to get to that goal. And then they've got their time period there as well. Now the thing is, I think this is oversimplified massively. I would break this down further. So, I mean, just to think of, let's see, if we had a goal for a makeup artist, so like they've got their restaurant within 1 year, we might have a goal of, I'd like to get my first 500 quid day rate this year, or I would like to get a really fancy new website, or I would like to have bridal bookings every weekend. So, or I put here, to get on the assisting list at Fashion Week. That's a goal that a lot of my students have. So in terms of then the act small category here, the projects that you would break that down into, probably things like a PDF to attach to an email, maybe a modern up-to-date website. You're going to need a list of the artists that do Fashion Week and their agencies and their contact details, a copy of the Fashion Week schedules, so you know when you need to be available and when you're going to email people, and maybe, quite likely, certain images in your portfolio that you think are really going to appeal to the bookers who are booking people for Fashion Week. So if we take that one project that we've given ourselves there, this will become more clear when you see the next slide. Okay, so we've got our goal on the left, Fashion Week assisting, and you would do this for every goal that you have. So you may only want to start with like 5 goals, just so you don't overload yourself. And then one of the projects that we've got attached to that is that you're going to need these certain images in your portfolio. So it might be things like clean skin or the sort of thing that people who are hiring for Fashion Week want to see. So then we've got 2 more categories here, tasks and actions. Now tasks is where you're going to split up, it's very self-explanatory really, what that is going to involve. So to get those certain images in your portfolio, you're going to decide what images you need in the first place. You're going to create some mood boards and you're going to find some photographers. And then the actions are there. They are the daily or weekly things that you are going to do that week to move you a little bit closer to that goal that you've got. Suddenly, this idea has become really actionable steps that you can do this week. Anyone can do those things. So those actions, you know, when I've said they're research Fashion Week makeups, it might be, right, I'm going to look through, you know, the makeups from the last 2 seasons and see what are some common elements of these. Oh, well, the skin looks a certain way, or the brows look a certain way. Great, you know, you've got a few ideas like that. And then you're going to create 5 mood boards, which I've spelt wrong there. So it's not just, oh, do some mood boards. I'm going to create 5 mood boards. And that's like specificity about it makes all the difference. I've got list 10 photographers, email those photographers, arrange 3 test shoots and shoot, obviously. You're going to be wanting to tick these off. That's the thing. So that's why you want to put everything down there as an action. And then you've got your due date. Very important. None of these actions mean anything without a pressing, realistic due date. So suddenly, that huge goal has become something completely different. Another bit of business speak for you here, guys. A little acronym. Now, I hate it when you go to like meetings and people just like, or when you're at school or whatever, and people just throw out these acronyms that don't mean anything, but these are genuinely helpful. This is how you're going to figure out your goals, as opposed to them just being vague or unworkable again. So you can see there what it means. We've got specific goals. So you want them to be precise. You're not going to come in and say, a goal that a lot of people say to me, how do I get consistent booking? I want consistent booking. That is so vague. Say to yourself, I want 5 new well-paying clients this year, or whatever that means to you, whatever that looks and feels like to you. You want it to be measurable. So it may be, I want to book 2 weddings a week during wedding season, as opposed to, I want to do more weddings. Again, you know, we're all guilty of these vague goals that are kind of difficult to achieve in that way. Even if there's not a number attached to it, it just needs to be measurable. So, you know, you might say, I want to work with a better caliber of photographer. Well, you can objectively say whether that's true and whether you can tangibly, you know, do that and tick it off your list. Attainable. They need to be realistic. You know, a Vogue cover as a goal is a great goal and it's an achievable goal over time, but a Vogue cover within a year of leaving college, not so much. So only because you'll likely be disappointed, and we don't want the goals to be that way. We want them to be things you can achieve so you can keep that feeling of achievement going. Who else? What have we got? Oh, the R. R is relevant. Sometimes I see it realistic. I think someone was trying to struggle to fit it into this acronym. But it seems to just be along the lines of something that's actually relevant and realistic to your life. You know, if you were saying, oh, I want to be a high-end editorial makeup artist, and so the goal included moving to London, but you have a wife and kids and you live in Scotland, you know, you can't do that. So you just need to make sure that, I mean, it may, even when you're going through this process of coming up with these goals, it may kind of make you think, oh, okay, that goal I had is maybe not so realistic for me. How can I shift and, you know, come up with a new goal perhaps? And then timely, or time-based, it says there. This is vital. Otherwise, yeah, you will just procrastinate probably on these. I think all of us are guilty of that sometimes. So yeah, this is where like a diary is helpful. Not necessarily a paper diary, but I find a paper diary is quite nice for this kind of journal-based to-do listy stuff. There's a great one I mentioned in another webinar that we did that I had a couple of years ago. It's called the Daily Greatness Journal. You can Google it, and it's about 40 quid, that one. There are cheaper ones. But it kind of did exactly this. It was like, what are your goals in these different areas? And then it made me break them down really small. And then every week I would give myself tasks. It makes a huge difference, a huge difference. The stuff that happened in my life in that year, I put down to that journal, and it was a big old year. So you want to be flexible. Obviously, life gets in the way. Ideas may change as well, you know, which is why you want to review your progress with these. So don't just, you know, keep going blindly every 3 months or so. That's why I like those journals, because every 3 months it has a page where it reminds you, right, look back and how have you got on. And then you may think, oh, I've got some new goals I want to add here, or you may think, you know, this goal I had actually I don't really care about anymore, or this wasn't working or whatever. So you're going to reassess that stuff. You're going to look at the things you have achieved, and you're going to pat yourself on the back for that. It's a really lovely, tangible way of doing that kind of stuff. And then over the months and over the years, you will get closer and closer to those goals. It's great to kind of every new year sit down, take stock, and write your new goals for the year as well. So next up, number 2. Not everyone is your customer, guys. Define your brand, understand your customer. More business speak for you. Those of you who have done the course will be familiar with this idea of finding your niche. It's one of the first lessons that I teach, and I get a lot of feedback on that lesson from people who hadn't even considered it, and have, you know, come to interesting conclusions from it. Essentially, as you may have often heard, it's that thing of when you were trying to appeal to everybody, you end up accidentally appealing to nobody. So you want to define your brand, which a lot of people do not think of as makeup artists, because we're human beings. We don't want to think of ourselves as brands, but as a makeup artist, that element of ourselves is a brand. It's like a product we're selling to people. It's essentially like trainers, where you would have like Nike, so that's like kind of sporty, cutting edge, and then you would have Converse, which is kind of hippie, skatery, laid back. Neither of those brands came out thinking we're going to sell all trainers to all people. If they did, they would not be where they are now. That lack of clarity is very detrimental in all business. And then what it also does, once you've kind of defined yourself a little more, and we'll talk about how you do this, is it then allows you to define your customer more as well. And then it's this kind of back and forth between the two. So, you know, your customer could be anyone. It's not just the person in the chair who's having their makeup put on. It could be a bride, but it could be an actress, but it could also be like an art director or a fashion editor or a producer. And they, when they are looking for a makeup artist to fill whatever spot they have going, they want to be spoken to in the language that they understand, that lets them know that you are the person that is going to help them to solve whatever problem it is that they have in that particular job. If you do a bit of everything, they are just left confused. So certain niches, on the course, I break it down into what I call the paths, which is like 7 or 8 different types of makeup artists that exist in the business. But it's certainly not all of the types of makeup artists that exist. But say if you were a makeup artist who loved to do, and this is, I'm talking about the kind of work you do as well, because like I don't do the sort of work that Isabella French does, but I am inspired by her work and love it. But I'm talking about where you fit, what the best work you do. If you were in the vein of Nikki Makeup and Lisa Eldridge, if that's your kind of work and you want to be hired for those kind of jobs, what do the people who are booking you want to see in your book? They want to see celebrity red carpet style makeup. They want to see high-end fashion and beauty in your book. I'm not saying you've got to have a book full of celebrity red carpet. I know you can't have that when you're starting out, but as you build, that's the aesthetic that you're selling to your customers. Or, I mean, just as another example, say if you were a bride who very rarely wore makeup and wanted a very natural kind of contemporary, edgy, fresh look. That's the person that you would be looking for when you went out there onto the internet looking for a makeup artist. Or say if you were the opposite, if you wanted the full whack Kim Kardashian, full glamour as your wedding look, okay? And you go online and you see 3 websites. One of them is the fresh, natural, freckly, barely there makeup. One of them is the full whack Kim Kardashian glamour. And in the middle, you've got somebody who does this, but also does this and does a million other things as well. Which person are you going to hire? You're going to hire the one who does the Kim Kardashian full glamour, right? Because that's what you want. And so you could then make the mistake of thinking, well, but if I do both, then I'll get both of those clients. No, you won't. You won't get either of those clients because they are going to look for the person who most fits their niche. And these niches aren't that small. You can't really niche yourself out of business. Like, even if you were a makeup artist who did like goth weddings, there's thousands of goths out there getting married. Like, so if you become a brand that is clear, you will be selling yourself to people who are willing to pay for what you're selling, as opposed to that person who's just like after whatever they could get for as cheap as they can get it. So let's see, yeah, in terms of talking about the kind of customers that might be out there, let's see what I'm saying here. Yeah, you want to provide, this is like any product that does well, it essentially solves the problem of the person who is buying it. And you may think, well, when I buy jeans, I've not got a problem. Yeah, you do. Your problem is that you want a pair of jeans that you feel really hot in, and then somebody, Topshop or whatever, has fixed that problem for you. So, you know, it might be an art director who wants a really creative makeup artist for their shoot. Their problem is that they have to take that shoot to their editor, and they want their editor to, you know, tell them they've done a good job. That's the problem they've got. So if you're that really creative, edgy makeup artist, then you're going to be solving that problem for them. Or like a bride who wants to feel like a celebrity with this super luxury service on her wedding day, that kind of thing. So you're speaking to those elements of what they're looking for. So yeah, it's very customer based, this, in a way. It's very easy for us as makeup artists to just think, I'm going to put my art out there and people are just going to like it or lump it. You can do that, sometimes that works, but it's quite rare that that alone will get you to where you want to be. It's considered to be one of the main reasons that businesses fail, essentially, is that they just like flat out ignore their customer. And it's very rare for makeup artists to really put themselves in the customer's shoes and put the customer first. Because you have to think that customer is concerned about themselves and themselves only. They are not concerned about how busy your diary is, how much money you're making, how your career is going. That's not their concern. Shock horror. So then this will then move into your marketing as well, how your Instagram looks, the design of your website, and so on. And just as a caveat to this, I was talking about the people who kind of just want the cheapest bog standard makeup artist. Those are what's known as price buyers. That is not somebody that you want to appeal to. It can be tempting at first to think, I'm just going to outprice everybody. We've all seen makeup artists who do this. We know what this is. You see them a lot in like Facebook groups. I'm going to be the cheapest and therefore everybody's going to hire me. Not everybody is looking for the cheapest. That's the thing. There is somebody, well, a type of buyer that's called a value buyer. And that is somebody who recognizes quality and value. And that's what they want. They're like the people who buy designer clothes. They're not going to be like, well, I can get a pair of jeans in Primark, so I'll just go there. They don't want that. So those are the people who you want to speak to. That's the language that you want to be speaking and the kind of vibe that you want to be putting across in your work and on your website. Another one is a relationship buyer. A lot of people are kind of a bit of both. They want somebody that's trustworthy, that they feel a connection with. And that language is different depending on who you're appealing to. So if you're appealing to a bride, that connection and that trust is built through, you know, there might be lots of pictures of you at work on the website, lots of talk about you and how you like to treat the client and so on, and how you love doing weddings, and it's all fluffy and warm and exciting. If you've got an art director wanting to book you for a shoot for ID or something, it's going to be the opposite. They want minimal, they want sleek, they want effortless. They don't want to hear loads about you. They want you to look like you're so experienced that you don't need to do any of that. But that's the relationship that they're buying into. That's what they trust. So this whole thing, you can kind of come up with what they call customer avatars. You know, you're like, okay, the art director at this magazine, what's he looking for in an artist? And kind of start to build it that way as well. You're kind of working both ways on this. Another thing you can do, well, actually, I was going to say on the course, we do have later in the course, for those of you who've not got to it yet, the who does the hiring lessons. And that just takes you through all the different types of jobs you might do and who it is that you need to look for, who's doing the hiring in those instances. So that might be a good one to go back over if you're thinking about this part of things. Or you can even look back at like your best paying clients, the best jobs you've done or the most lucrative jobs you've done. Who were those people? What was their job? What appealed to them about you? And how can you focus more in that direction, get more people like that? So I hope that makes sense, guys. I've got my chat box hidden because I do tend to delve into it. So if I'm going too fast for you or anything of the sort, do let me know. Okay, we're going to go a little bit more easy breezy here. Mindset matters. Professional and personal development is an essential piece of owning a business. Now, if you don't like self-help, get ready to like it, guys, because it does what it says on the tin. It's helpful, and that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for something that's going to help us to grow, again, behind the scenes, particularly in mindset. Mindset is vital in this career. If any of you came to our mental health webinar, you know how many mindset issues we can have as self-employed artists. A lot of this will come from podcasts these days, actually. I kind of thought that after I'd made my notes, but there's loads of podcasts in this realm. But classically, it comes from books. If you're not a big reader, you can get audio books these days as well. Now, I don't want to dictate what books are going to help you because we're all different. I've put some suggestions here or some of my favourites. But essentially what you want to look at if you're interested in, you know, working on your mindset is what are your specific obstacles, and work on that root mindset. It could be that you procrastinate a lot. It could be imposter syndrome. You might be bad with money. It could be creative block. There are many, many different realms of self-help out there. I've put on the right there, some of you will know Tony Robbins, some of you will be like, who the heck is that? That is like, it's a masterpiece of self-help, essentially. You read that book, if you want to make it as a makeup artist, if you want to quit smoking, if you want to dump your boyfriend, whatever, that book will tell you how to do it. It's incredible. Would recommend. Another one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a classic. There are certain classics that are classics and, you know, bestsellers every year for a reason. Slightly weird one there, Who Moved My Cheese, which is an interesting name for a book. It's basically, it's an analogy where the cheese is like your goal, and it's about some mice in a maze. You'll have to look it up on Amazon, guys. You think I've lost my marbles otherwise. Steal Like an Artist, we talk about on the course. I know a lot of students have bought it and come to me after being like, I love this book so much. It's by a guy called Austin Kleon. He's written a couple of books since, one called Show Your Work and another called Keep Going. This was his first book. It says 10 things nobody told you about being creative, but it's a lovely book about finding inspiration in the work of others, and using that to become your own artist, essentially. It's a very reassuring book for creative people. It's beautiful. I love that book. I put Brené Brown here. I've also got Eckhart Tolle on this page here. They are both amazing if you suffer from imposter syndrome or like social anxiety or nerves at work or stress, any of that, they've got you. And then there's a few others here as well. I've got one there about building networks, which we'll talk about networks, because I know that's like a heinous word that makes people roll their eyes. But you've got the money book there for freelancers and self-employed. And then we've got a couple of books on creativity as well, if you feel that that's something where you kind of get stuck, if you're put on the spot, or, you know, you just want to take your work to the next level. Loads of amazing books, an absolute fountain of knowledge. I know you can find loads on YouTube these days, but this is not the stuff you can find on YouTube, I swear it. And I love a book anyway. If you're a reader, great. If you're not, read 5 pages every other day. You'll be amazed what you learn. And you want to take notes. I always highlight these books. Such a nerd. Okay, next up, let's see where we're at. I think we're on number 4. Okay, winners focus on winning. Now, the full quote, which makes me retch a bit, losers focus on winners, winners focus on winning. It sounds like something Donald Trump would say, or Charlie Sheen. So take it with a pinch of salt, but the point of what it's saying still stands true. Some of you in other webinars may have heard me talk about my relationship with social media. People will often say social media is so negative and it's full of comparison and this, that, and the other. I think it's purely what you make of it. I mute huge amounts of my peers because I don't want to see that on my phone every day. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's distracting, and yeah, not for me. So I mean, this quote relates to that. Social media does make it a lot worse. I mean, I became a makeup artist 15 years ago. This didn't exist then. It's definitely detrimental. I can tell you, as somebody who's doing this before that was around, and I'm sure a few of you were as well, now having that thrust in your face every day, it's no good for you. So let's see how you feel about the idea, but I would definitely say you want to start muting people selectively, unfollowing people. Now, I'm not saying we have to be islands who ignore everybody out there in the industry. That would be stupid. We have to have a kind of healthy awareness and appreciation for what's going on, for the aesthetic, for who our peers are, for the sort of clients that they're working with and that we're working with. But the important word in this is focus. It shouldn't be where your focus is. For some people, it becomes all-consuming. I have friends who will text me sometimes about some work that someone's done and it's really got them down, and, you know, why aren't I here, and so on. And I can't be part of that. It's negative for motivation, for mental health. And again, it takes your focus away from where it should be. Your focus should be on developing your strengths, not fixating on the strengths of others. And your focus should be on your customers, not your competition. It's literally why horses wear those blinders when they race, so they can keep their focus on the track ahead, not side to side. And then the other thing, I suppose, when you're comparing yourself to other people in that way is, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. It could just be losers focus on other people. I hate that word losers as well, it's so loaded. But yeah, you have zero control in that situation. So, you know, you're measuring your progress against a different person with different contacts, different skill sets, a different human being entirely, and they're going to be the way that you measure your success. It's madness. Instead, you want to take the route of Olympic athletes, guys. They compete with themselves when they are training. So, I mean, not only that, but let's see, they want to beat their personal best. You know, they measure their progress season to season against themselves. And if they need to rest, they will rest. They don't think, oh, such and such is working, you know, loads this week, so I need to work. They don't, you know, work in a way that they think that other person is working, doing the things that other person is doing. They do what works for them, what works for their customer, what works for their staff, and so on. Not their customer, our customer. But yeah, so you want to look at your previous work or your efforts, your career, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, and compare that to where you are now. That comes back to the kind of reviewing of your goals that you're going to do. You should only be trying to compete with yourself. You're looking for consistent progress, and that is the best way to do it. and the healthiest way as well. Healthiest and the happiest. Okay. Oh, this next slide picture makes me really happy. Is that a guy? There's a guy on Instagram who does this, chops vegetables and stuff into these lovely cubes. Anyway, any perfectionists in the house? Me. I have worked for years to relax and relinquish that side of myself, especially at work. They say in business that it's the kind of thing that can kind of ruin a business before it even gets off the ground, because people feel like they have to have all of their ducks in a row in order to be able to progress. And really, you just need to get out there and figure it out as you go. Businesses, they will test, they will learn, they will improve. Their final form is never their final form. It's always changing and improving. It's a messy process, and that is okay. So if you're here and you've just come out of college, or you're in a full-time job and you want to get started, just get started. If you're already working and you're confused and you think you're not good enough or you're not doing things right, keep going. It's part of the process. You just have to try and keep learning and be flexible and be willing to kind of pivot where you need to, and so on. One thing about this perfectionist streak that I see, I do wonder whether it's a massive curse of artists and makeup artists in particular, is the niche that I talked about earlier. And when I talk about the pass on the course, they come to me and they say, I don't feel like I know what my niche is. You know, I'm in the first year or two of my career and I'm not sure. And do I need to know this now? No, you don't need to know it now. It's fine. Like, if you know that you don't know, then that just means that you need more experience. It will become clear over time. And that's fine. It's all about, you know, experience and taking that experience and inputting it into your kind of ideas as you move forwards, as opposed to being like, I need to get this right. You can't really get it right. All of our experiences are going to be different. More issues with clinging to perfection that may be worth trying to let go of it a bit. If you feel you are a perfectionist, maybe you can find yourself a book in the what was it, mindset matters point. Yeah, your expectations for yourself will be nearly impossible to meet. I put a post on Instagram the other week that a lot of people liked about how we think that other people's makeups are perfect, and actually when you see a very close-up image of celebrity red carpet makeups, they are flawed as our own are. There's eye boogers and there's grease and there's spots and there's all sorts of lip liner bleeds, that kind of thing. If you're killing yourself trying to get something perfect, your expectations for yourself are way too high, and you see mistakes as failures when they're not. Another thing is that your version of perfect may not be your client's version of perfect. That's often the case. I'll sometimes do a makeup and I'll be like, beautiful, ready to go. And then the client comes in and they're like, oh, can you just change that eyeliner? Oh, I like my brows a bit like. And, you know, if you're this mad perfectionist who's clinging to your vision of, no, this is correct, you could be a bit of a nightmare client in that situation. So, and it can knock your self-belief, your confidence, and so on. You end up robbing yourself of feeling proud of your achievements, all sorts. You'll be more risk averse as well, and we have to take risks as self-employed people, absolutely. I think you'll often find as well that in this business, done is often better than perfect. Like sometimes people would rather have somebody on set after an hour than wait for 2 hours for you to make sure the angles on your eyeliner are matching. So in many ways, it's not the realm for a perfectionist. It is if you're sitting in your bedroom doing your own makeup and you can take 4 hours to do it. But when you're out in the field, let it go. Let it go. Yeah, I've also saying, I mean, about how it can make you cling stubbornly. It can make you cling stubbornly to a vision or a goal as well, which is no good. Pretty much, as I was saying, every startup that's ever created has kind of changed direction. It's impossible to know what's coming down the road. So you need to be flexible in that sense. It will benefit you to do so. Don't be adamant that the way you do things is the right way, or if you had a certain goal that you need to stick to that and that anything outside of that is a failure. That is not the case. An example of that would be when I started out, I grew up like a metalhead and I dressed really crazy, quite the opposite of how I am now. I love horror films, you know, I love quirky, weird makeup. And so when I started out, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be that edgy, crazy makeup artist. And for about 4 years, that was what I did. And it was like I was swimming upstream all the time. There are people who are better at that than me. It's just how it is. I love it. But when it comes to the execution, I was always just like, it always felt a little bit try hard. I was never happy with it. But at the same time, I always did really well and felt really comfortable when I was doing the kind of makeups I used to do when I was at Mac, which were like beauty makeups, but with colour and creativity, and they were a bit edgy. And so I just relaxed and said, this is not working. I'm going to go in that direction. And it was the best thing I ever did. Similarly, it could be the opposite. You might be super edgy and your heart lies there and you're an artist and you've got this incredible vision and you just want an agent. So you sign with some agent that never gets you any money because you freak out all their clients. But you stick there because I want to have an agent. Maybe you need to pivot elsewhere. Maybe you do better on your own for another couple of years. So it can be a million things. Similarly, if you have no hair skills and you live in an area where brides want hair and makeup, so many of us will stick adamantly to, I am a makeup artist. Well, maybe you can also be a makeup artist who does hair, if that's going to make your career better. Not for everybody, but just be willing to not see those pivots as failures. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Okay, so we're on to the next one. Where are we up to? Number 6. I hope you're all doing okay there, guys. It's quite weird that I've kind of cut all of your sound and images. I know you're there, but it's just this stony silence that I'm not used to. Number 6, plan for success, prepare to fail. Okay, you ready? If you are an entrepreneur, you will fail. And I do not mean, deep breath, I do not mean your business is going to fail and you're going to go bankrupt. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean that sometime, somewhere, to some degree, you will fall short. You'll fail to impress an important new client that you've got. You might just do a really bad makeup one day on a job that you were really, had your heart set on doing well at. Some client you've had for ages might hire someone else and you don't know why. You might get with an agent and they only booked you 2 jobs in the first 6 months. All sorts of things can happen. This is not off focus by any means. But if you go into this telling yourselves that nothing like that is ever going to happen to you, or that when it does happen to you, it's only happening to you and it's the end of the world, then you'll get the fright of your life when these things happen. Planning for this does not make you negative. It doesn't make you paranoid. It's part of business. It makes you smart. So first off, just because, as I was saying, if you failed, it doesn't mean you're a failure. There is a quote I've written down here: success is the ability to go from one failure to the next without any loss of enthusiasm in between. That is so true, because I have seen failures, I don't like calling them that, it's too dramatic, but things that have gone wrong, or unwanted occurrences that have happened in people's careers, and they've just taken it so personally that they essentially backed out of the career and went and did something else. I mean, it is a tough line of work that we're in. It's great, as we know. I'm not concentrating on this negativity here, but I just want to express it as a business concept. This is vital. I'm sure you've all seen this little diagram here, what people think success looks like and what it actually looks like. So if that's like bottom left there, that's you coming out of college. Top right, that's you getting your first L editorial. So you've got up there, that might be your first celebrity client. You've got down there, that might be turned up to the airport and you've forgot your passport. Up, signed to an agency. Down, they only got me 2 jobs in 6 months, etc., etc. And it also goes back and forth within the doodles there, which I think is important, because sometimes you can do a little bit of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing. But it's such a simple doodle, it is so true, it's ridiculous. So always bear that in mind. Absolutely part of the process. If you avoid failure of any kind, you will avoid success of any kind. Again, kind of, you can look at athletes as an example of that. You know, if they gave up every time they lost a match or a race, they wouldn't get very far. There was another quote here from Michael Jordan. Speaking of sportsmen, I can't pretend to be a massive basketball enthusiast, but even I know who Michael Jordan is. And he said, let me read you what he said. He said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed." Can you imagine what that feels like? I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. I mean, what an amazing quote. I love that. So a few, put my teeth in, ground rules around planning to fail. The first one I've got there is make hay while the sun shines. Excuse me. My agent said this to me about 8 years ago, and I've never forgotten it because she's so right. And it was, I'd signed with that agent and I'd started getting my first like signed music artists as clients. And I had this run of like 6 amazing months. And I naively said to her in a conversation, like, oh, it's just such a relief now. Like, I don't have to worry about having those quiet months anymore. And she was like, Lucy, you will have quiet months. Like, they're in the post. If you have a really long stretch like this, on the whole, you're due some quiet months. They're going to come at some point. So don't take that money and think, right, this is me forever. Save some of it. Be responsible. Save some of it for the time when you're going to need it, and you will be so happy that you did. Okay, we've got the 5 by 5 rule. Very simple. If it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes being upset about it. I used that just this morning, actually, thinking about a personal thing. And I reminded myself, in 5 years, you're not even going to remember this. Never mind be upset about it. And it's strange. It's clearly some sort of psychological trick, but it works. People drive themselves mad as freelance artists about things that have gone wrong, things they've said or done wrong or whatever at work. It helps to have somebody to vent to as well. Would recommend. Do not hold that inside, but let it go. Failure is your best teacher. A classic. Again, we all know this quote, but again, it's true. I would say, you know, again, as opposed to just having that as a vague idea, break it down, make it actionable. You know, if something really bad happens at work or something that's made you feel bad or stressed, what's one thing I can learn from this? One thing, not what things, one thing. How can you adjust your course to make it less likely to happen next time? What thing can you do differently next time? Write those down in your journal. Could be helpful. Others might be to learn from unhappy clients. And I have to say, those are rare. When I talk about unhappy clients, like, I can't remember the last time I had a client who was, you know, genuinely not happy with the way things went at work. But, you know, every now and then you might get someone whose aesthetic is not matched to yours, or God knows what. Quote from Bill Gates, seeing as we're in the business realm here. He said, "Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning." That is true, and he's done all right, so maybe it's worth listening to him. They can teach you where the holes in your service might be. So if you can, once you've had your little freak out, take a breath and then try to get something out of it. Making those mistakes is not a big deal, as long as you can genuinely learn something from them and avoid repeating them. You know, if you put non-waterproof mascara on a bride and then it runs down her face on a wedding day, you might be mortified. Okay, are you going to take something from that? Are you going to put some waterproof mascara in your kit next time? Just make sure you're learning from them. Each time you fail or are rejected, rejection was something we talked about in the mental health webinar, your fear of failure becomes smaller, and that allows you to take on bigger challenges. There was a quote from Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post. She said, "Fearlessness is like a muscle. The more I exercise it, the stronger it became." So true. If you prepare for it mentally, it means you won't take it personally. Okay. Number 7. Where are we up to? Yeah, I had about an hour and a quarter into this, so I think we might be just on time. They also get shorter as we go. So, overnight success takes years. This has been quoted from everybody from Steve Jobs to Richard Branson to flipping Lionel Messi. I saw it attributed to so many people. Overnight success, the overnight part, is kind of usually the sudden recognition of years of hard work. And the reason I talk about this for us is you sort of think, well, I'm not asked about getting overnight success, but people are hungry as makeup artists, especially starting out, or if you're not having the best year or whatever. You're hungry, you're super talented, you want it now, and it can be really stressful, especially when you see people who are succeeding and you hadn't heard of them last year and now you have, and they've got all this amazing work. Who's this person? Overnight success. That's why I'm talking about it. Essentially, as a makeup artist, you require patience, which is not what people want to hear, because, you know, when you're looking forwards into 3 years, 5 years, you just want it to come as soon as possible. So yeah, that can lead to frustration and stress, especially in the age of social media, I was saying. But yeah, those empires that we build, they are built brick by brick. So you've got your goals planned out from the first kind of exercise that we did. And you want to try and focus on, like, 3 to 5 years down the line. Funny thing is, most people don't realize that wherever they are in their life now is built on decisions they made 3 to 5 years ago. And you're going to get there anyway. So you can get there working on it, or you can get there just frustrated, wondering why everyone else has an overnight success. Yeah, you never want to stagnate. You want to be always moving gradually in that direction. And sometimes there will be great leaps in that direction, which is lovely as well. But yeah, you're not going to wake up tomorrow an overnight success in the same way you didn't this morning. So just keep chipping away. You will hear of the odd overnight success, you know, maybe someone who's made it in like a year. I can think of like 2 examples of that, but they are massively the exception to the rule. So yeah, all of this hard work goes on, and then the moment you're discovered or get a big break, your rise to prominence kind of seems really fast from the outside. Everybody thinks, you know, who's this person? They have no idea what went on behind the scenes. I think a good example of this is Hung Van Gogh. If you don't know Hung Van Gogh, where have you been? Look him up. But I remember coming across his work randomly on Instagram like 3 years ago. He wasn't working with quite the level of celebrity he is now, but he was nearly there anyway. But his aesthetic was just as it is now, incredible. And within those 3 years, I mean, he's now one of the most followed makeup artists in the world. And so, you know, if you just come to him in the last year, say, you might be like, who's this guy? Where's he come from? You know, like you'd heard of your Pat McGrath and your Val Garlands before. Like, who's this guy? Hung Van Gogh went to makeup school 20 years ago. He then was doing makeup in like small town Canada. Then he moved to Toronto, where he was building his book there. Then he moved to New York. Then he had to build all his new contacts there. And then 20 years down the line, you get your Hung Van Gogh. He's not an overnight success. You may even look at the style of his work and think, you know, why is my style not like that? You know, like that it's so flawless and incredible. But when you see someone who has a lot of skills or a lot of knowledge or a lot of experience, they're built over time. So give yourself that time, give yourself a break, essentially. And remember to enjoy those small victories along the way. Use them as momentum. I put the quote there, the Steve Jobs quote, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. You have to trust that the dots will connect in your future. I love that quote because it's so true. Especially when you get a little bit further on into your career, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to look back and be like, oh, that happened because that happened, etc., etc. So we've got a few quickies just to finish up with. Number 8, the best lessons are learned in the trenches. What does this mean? Well, it means essentially you can only learn and grow, learn things that you really need to know that can't be taught by getting out there, taking risks, getting down and dirty in those makeup trenches. The advice that I teach on the course is exactly that. Many of you who've done it will know it's all the best lessons that I learned coming up through the ranks that nobody told me, that aren't written down anywhere. And I know that it will save you guys time and effort, but at the same time, sometimes those lessons can only be learned by you experiencing them for yourself. The saying is the trenches as well, essentially, because it means it's often, you know, you get the best lessons when the going gets tough. I had a quote here from Marissa Mayer, former CEO of Yahoo, always going for the super businessy people in this one. No makeup artist quotes here. She said, I always did something I was a little not ready to do. I think that's how you grow. When there's that moment of, oh, I'm really not sure I can do this, and you push through those moments, that's when you have a breakthrough. So yeah, if you want to get good at anything, and this includes the business skills that we're talking about here, not just the makeup skills, you're not going to get that by watching YouTube. You have to get out there, implement and practice, give it time. Just to give you some of the lessons I learned in the trenches, I was thinking about this before, lessons that you would never find in a YouTube video or a makeup blog. Do not budget with money that you haven't earned yet. If you haven't put a makeup brush on somebody's face, that job's not yours. Do not talk crap about a celebrity when doing makeup for another celebrity, because they might be really good friends with each other. Simple hair very rarely means simple hair. The best response to a difficult client request is no problem. In-shoe foot warmers are the best bit of kit that you can have for winter location shoots, etc., etc. The list goes on. I often have students who I'll give them advice on something and they kind of ignore it. They sort of think, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or that sounds nonsense. And then a year later, they come back to me and they're like, oh, you were right about that thing. And I don't mind, because I know what it's like. I know that sometimes you have to have that visceral experience of something for it to really kind of sink in. So expect to learn lessons that you potentially never even expected to need to know. Okay, next up, put yourself in the way of luck. Now you may think, what is this nonsense? Because luck is pure chance. A lot of us know, if you are a little further into your career, you will know how much luck does play a massive part, just in terms of a lot of things come through someone you know, being in the right place at the right time, etc., etc. So a lot of it is, yes, pure chance, but it's also malleable, because you can create more of those chance opportunities through your behavior. There is an interesting book called The Luck Factor, which a professor of psychology wrote. I think it's Richard Wiseman is his name. And he did some experiments called the Luck School, where he took a bunch of people who basically thought that they were unlucky people, and he took them through some processes and gave them some skills and so on, and sent them out into the world. And it was this like year-long experiment, and they all came back saying they felt about 80% luckier after what he taught them. So how do you do that? How did he do that? Well, for us especially, I would say, but I'm sure this is true across the board, one of the fastest and bestest ways is to put yourself out there and meet more people, because people bring connections, and connections bring opportunity. So networking, that word again, it is one of the keys to this kind of success, because people who are hiring you want to work with people that they know and trust, or they at least want a recommendation from somebody that they know and trust. It makes sense. And I know we all recoil at this word. A lot of creative people are introverts. I am an introvert. The idea of networking, in the sense that we think of it in, makes me want to curl up and die. But it's not, especially these days, it's not standing in a bar with a drink at some networking event. No, it's about building genuine relationships. And sometimes you can even do that via email. I don't know if I know like my agent has those people that they email backwards and forwards, and they never bloody meet each other. They're all just like kiss on the emails. Sometimes it can be just that, or social media, like supporting someone on social media and being interested in what they do. Essentially, if you're not the first person that comes into somebody's head when that opportunity for a job comes up, you might be putting yourself out of a job. So that's the kind of connection I'm talking about. Secondly, I've put, what we were talking about earlier, focusing on your customers. I won't talk about it massively because we've already talked about it, but essentially, if you make yourself the dream artist for your dream client, then you significantly increase your chances of being noticed by them. Thirdly is creating and noticing chance opportunities. I feel like I am always doing this at work. It's like my little radar is just blinking all the time, just to be aware. Say if you get on really well with a photographer on a shoot, but that photographer didn't hire you, you've literally met him that day. So he's not the person that got you that job, but you got on well. Then when you get home, get his details off the call sheet, send him an email the next day. Hey, I'd love to work with you on something. Have you got any personal projects coming up? Whatever. Or if I had one job where I was just doing male grooming for somebody, but the manager was there and they were saying we have this female singer and they hired this makeup artist for her and she cannot work with black skin and we need somebody who can work with black skin. Now, they are not a makeup artist, this manager, so they don't know that we should all be able to do that, and you know, they don't know much about that side of things. I've worked with loads of clients who are black. I have a book full of all sorts of skin tones. So I went over to her and I was like, I'm sorry to just butt in, but I just heard what you were saying. If you want to look through my book, there you go. That's a little opportunity. It can even be, you know, if you notice on Facebook that your friend's girlfriend's brother is a music manager, ask if you can be put in touch. All of these things will pop up over time. And it's kind of like, if you can create your own luck, you can also deny yourself your own luck. You know, if you think of a person who never stays in touch with anybody that they work with, never takes opportunities that they see pop up, you know, doesn't think about their client, their customer, how lucky do you think that person is in comparison to the person who puts themselves out there for those opportunities? So it does kind of show that you can make more of that luck for yourself. And finally, work damn hard. That's the quote there. I am a great believer in luck. The harder I work, the more I have of it. I would say if you put into action everything you learn on this today, everything you've learned in the course, if you take it and put it into action and tell me that you don't have more opportunities at the end of it, I guarantee you will. Okay, and last but very much not least, is this: seek respect, not attention. It lasts longer. So to come back to viewing you as the product in this business analogy, just as you will come back to a product that you love time and time again because it works, not because it has the shiniest packaging or the most expensive advertising or the most followers on Instagram, clients will come back to you and your reputation will build because you do a damn good job and you have people's respect. So how do you earn all of this lovely respect? Well, that may seem obvious, but let me give you a list of all of the things I thought of when I was thinking of how I would like to try and earn people's respect at work, and I think I've succeeded. You work hard, you show up on time, you go the extra mile. This is important to me. So I will offer people mood boards. I will go out of my way to source products for them if they have a vision for something and they're not sure how to get what they need. I will give people a hand massage if they're stressed out and they're having their hair done, that kind of thing. You make your client feel good, and that is not just the person in the chair. If your client is an art director, making them feel good is doing a good job of the makeup for them because they have to feed it back to somebody. So you make their job easier. You keep I'll make their job easier as well. I like to kind of look after people. You know, if I'm doing a celebrity and they're on a music video or something, I'll keep them warm, you know, I'll make sure they're fed, get them a coffee, that kind of thing. Keep your work high quality and contemporary. And funnily enough, that is the only part of this list that's got anything to do with the makeup that's going on the faces of people. You're pleasant to deal with. You treat everybody on a job with equal respect. You listen, really listen to your client and their needs, not just your vision of what you want to do. You have an opinion, but you respect other viewpoints. You don't gossip about people on set. You don't waste people's time. You don't say, I'm going to be 45 minutes when you're actually going to be an hour and a half. Be tactful with difficult clients. Communicate with warmth and authority. Make them feel secure and confident in you. And finally, don't run out the door at the end of the day like you can't wait to bloody leave. And don't complain. So many things there, many things which I'm sure you naturally do, but that is the respect that I'm talking about that keeps people coming back time after time. So I've just written here, tell me if you were hiring for a job where the makeup artist wasn't the face of the job. So sometimes I appreciate with influencers, they are the face of it and therefore it's about the followers. But if you had a person who does all of that, or just a makeup artist with a ton of followers, which one are you going to hire? Right? Seek respect, not attention. It lasts longer. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So that, guys, is your 10 commandments. There was a couple of other things I considered putting in there. One of them was understand your industry. Excuse me, itchy nose. Truly understanding your industry is a key to having success. It's the whole reason I wrote that course for you guys in the first place. Industries work in certain ways. It's not enough to just turn up, do nice makeup, and hope it all works out. And also have a solid business plan. At the end of the workbook, there is that career plan that I get you guys to fill in for yourselves. That's what that is to me. It's a business plan. You would not start a business without a business plan. It's the same for us, I feel. Another lovely quote here, Benjamin Franklin, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. A lot of quotes by white men in this little business scenario here. And funnily, I haven't really mentioned money, which seems odd in a business sense, but I haven't, because that could be a whole other webinar in and of itself. There would be too much to talk about. Things I would recommend, I mean, they say that one of the main reasons that any business goes out of business in the early stages is because they run out of money. And I see that similarly in what I was talking about, that kind of survival mode where somebody might leave, say, a full-time job and start being a freelancer and just not have enough money to live in the way that they want, and so gives up. You've got to be willing to take a little hit, I think, at the beginning. But essentially, if this is ongoing for you, you need to do yourself a little financial analysis of where you are. So on the course, in the money lesson, we do talk about budgets, paying yourself a wage, etc. But if you feel like you're not earning enough, then hopefully you can take what you've learned here and adjust your goals accordingly, because you can have financial goals in there as well. But a lot of they're often very interconnected, the goals. As you kind of move along in one, the other will rise with it. And then, yeah, so you're going to strategically do things to move you towards those goals that you've set for yourself. And so finally, I hope you found that helpful, guys. Let me see if I've got the chat box. Where are we? What time is it? Well, there you are. You've all been chatting to me and I've been ignoring you. Oh my God, so many questions. If anyone has a question that I missed, I don't know what was going on there. My settings were not showing me your lovely chat. I thought, oh, they're all very quiet. Not at all. Thank you, Kaori. You've shared the mental health link on my behalf. God bless you. Oh, there's loads. I'm going to have to go back and read through this. Oh, I missed out on all the chat, guys. Yeah, if you have any more questions for me now, whack them in there. So let me just say that I'm going to shrink the chat again for 1 second. Yeah, if you're not a student on the course, I know many of you are. If you would like to be, you can go to the website here. You've got the Instagram there as well. On Instagram, I put together a start here highlight, which I think is very helpful, just to give you a kind of overview of everything that we cover. We've touched on many of the points throughout here. I kept mentioning the course because it was relevant, but on the course you have over 6 hours of content. You get a 60-page workbook. We have a Facebook group as well. So you can see some of the feedback here. I'm sure some of the guys who are in the course who are here will vouch for the fact they have all given me lovely feedback. And like I say, I've been teaching it for nearly 5 years. Wrote it for London College of Fashion. I've had hundreds of students on it. I think one of them is here, Elizabeth Marley. She's one of my little success stories. When I met Elizabeth, she was, let me see how you're chatting to me. I can't ignore it. The course is outstanding. God bless you. Oh yeah, share your Instagrams with each other, guys, if you want. Yeah, when I met Liz, she was in full-time employment. That was 3 years ago, and she wanted to leave and be a makeup artist. She left. She then became a full-time makeup artist, and then recently just signed to her first agency. I mean, obviously, I can't take the credit. She went out there and worked her ass off, but that's the results that we're after. giving you that focus to take what took me 10 years and shrink it right down for you guys, so you don't have to waste your time and you can be focused in that way. So yeah, I've seen people overhaul their portfolios, level up their day rates, change direction so that they're like more creatively and financially happy. It has all sorts of results. It's kind of for all sorts of different people, no matter where you are in your career. It's usually 175 at London College of Fashion. That's what we used to charge. I put it online at oh hell yes to Lizzie's success. Cute. Yeah, I put it online at the beginning of lockdown at a really stupidly low price because I felt like people needed something to work on. It was good for me as well, and then that price has been going up incrementally now that we're going back to work. So it's currently £75. If you want to stick that webinar code in, you can get it for £50 today. But that is only active until midnight tonight. So if you want to get it for £50, get in there, get your chance. And that's about it, guys. How long was that? An hour 20. Oh, I feel so connected to you now. I can see the chat. I was so alone in that for a while. Wonderful. So anyone, any questions, my inbox is always open. I get back to everybody. You can email me, you can find my email on the website, or you can just inbox me on Instagram. And that's about it. So thanks for coming, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your drizzly day. This will be on YouTube, probably the day after tomorrow. I've got a bit of work to do, so but it'll be up there and I'll let you know as soon as. Oh, bless you. I don't want to cut us off while you're all chatting to each other. Are you ready, guys? Are you ready for me to end this? We're going. Okay. I love you all. You're fantastic. All right. How do I end this now? There we go. End. All right, guys. Take care. Speak soon. Bye.